Hi, I'm B. Welcome back to my channel. If you've been watching my shorts for the last several months, you know I've been creating a monthly bullet journal cover page where I take a famous artwork and then recreate it with a twist. So far, I've created The Great Wave off of Kanagawa by Hokusai, Rain Russell by Leonid Afremov, A Summer's Afternoon by Sir John Lavery, The Girl with a Pearl Earring by Johannes Vermeer, and this month I'm recreating Eclat du Jour by Alphonse Mucha. Alphonse Mucha is an artist that lived between 1860 and 1939. He is most famous for his commercial art with Sarah Bernhardt, who was an actress in Paris, as well as his sets of four. So the first set of four that he created was the Four Seasons, which is probably one of his most famous series of artwork. They were so popular, Champions, the printer he worked for, had commissioned him to create two more sets of the seasons. So there's a total of 3 sets of seasons that he has created. Because his sets of 4 were so popular, he created 5 other sets of 4, including the Times of Day, the Arts, Flowers, Precious Stones, and the Moon and Stars. Now, this picture that I am creating today comes from the set of the Times of Day. This is Eclat du Jour. The literal translation to English, according to Google, is the shine of day. It just means daytime. One of the things that I changed is that up in this top area, he created like floral depictions, and I decided to make it gemstones instead, just to kind of have an homage to some of his other work. I also decided to give this woman longer hair, also an homage to some of his other work, because he does a lot of like graphic detailing to the hair that it's a very stylistic way to create the hair. He obviously has all the draping clothing that is very common to him. I decided to change the flowers from these like daisy-like things into sunflowers, just because sunflowers are more May-like in my opinion. I also decided to change the dress because in his original one she's just kind of floating there, and I don't like that. It bothers me that she's floating there, and so I decided to make it so the dress was like anchored and it kind of looks like it's spilled out into the ground, and I tried to make it so that way it would flow with these like side decals, so that way it would have like a really good transition between the sides and the middle frame of this picture. I decided to leave off her face because in this picture that he painted, she looks like her mouth is relaxed, but her eyes look frightened. And I don't know if that was just an artist's choice, or if she's supposed to be like alert because it is midday or whatever, you know, because it's daytime. I don't know. I also changed it so she's not standing on the beach, and instead, you know, she's standing on whatever she is. Like her dress is what's anchoring her. It's almost like she's standing on a rock in the middle of the ocean and her dress is like flowing over it. And then the ocean is obviously there, and then the sky. So that way there's that divide there still, but I feel like this way there's more contrast between the dress and the background, and I like that better. I feel like, you know, with all of that gold and stuff, the dress kind of fades into the sand, and that could have been what he intended, was for the dress to fade into the sand, and then he has this like reflection that she's like standing in down at the bottom. I don't know, it goes into like this blue, and I understand he did it artistically. I understand why he did it, because he was trying to balance out the blue that's at the top, and so trying to like bring the eye downward, and that was done for like artistic means, not logical means, and I feel like they should both go together in my opinion. You shouldn't just do something just because it works artistically. You should do something because there's logic to it. Because it's May and she's supposed to represent obviously daytime, sunlight, all of that, the sunflowers, the gold dress, the jewels sparkling, all of that sort of thing. I decided to make her waistband a deeper purple, and I did that just so it would balance out with the jewels that I created. It would bring more movement for my particular piece from the jewels at the top down through, and then since it kind of loops around and curves, we also have the anchoring of the green like emeralds on the 4 corners. So at the top I was picturing like emerald jewels, and then like emerald leaves kind of at the bottom, and that's being anchored by of course all of the little green jewels that are mixed in with the purple jewels, as well as the leaves that are part of the flowers. Balancing these colors out help create better eye movement and flow of the composition. He already gave me the blueprint basically for a lot of the shape of the composition. I changed some things to be where I preferred, but obviously I'm not a famous painter and I have a novice eye, so I just changed it so that way it would match the things that I understand with regards to art. Overall though, I do really love how this piece turned out. Here you can see them side by side, like how different they are. They're obviously two very distinctly different pieces, obviously, but you can see how like mine was obviously modeled after his piece. Even though I've changed a bunch of like subtle things, altogether it kind of adds up and you can definitely see that they're quite different. I do very much like the fact that it's the whole ocean behind my dress. I wish he had done something like that, you know, or just chosen to do some other color in the background, put it in a meadow with the green gardens or something, just so that way it was not gold on sand. Like, I don't understand why he did that. Though Mr. Mucha was famous for his commercial art, he was kind of a snob because he thought that his real art should have some sort of spiritual undertone. It should have symbolism, connotations, things like that. And his commercial art, he did not think of as, you know, his real art. And so what is said to be his favorite piece of art was La Pater, which is the Lord's Prayer. He created like a picture book for it. And when I say picture book, I'm not talking like children's picture book. I'm talking like high-end fine art paintings for each one of the lines in the Lord's Prayer. And he had a ton of symbolism in there. A lot of people who have seen a lot of his other work first, when they saw this, there was a lot of shock that he could create art like that because it was so different than what he was already known for. Even to this day, though, his commercial art is still, like, if you were to Google Alphonse Mucha, you are going to find his commercial art, probably posters of his theatrical things with Sarah Bernhardt in them, any of the Sets of Four series. There's like a famous cigarette artwork. You're probably not going to see his religious work. Now, later on in his life, he did create the Slav epic, which were these ginormous pieces, and they were basically a dedication to the Slavic people. According to some websites, they say that he thought it was his most important work. According to other websites, the La Pater, which is the Lord's Prayer, was his most favored work. But either way, like, that style of art is so different than his commercial art. And you can kind of see, like, this is his passion. And this is his income. One of the other things that I find funny about Alphonse Mucha is that he was a super devout religious man, but he, like, almost all of his artworks involve a woman, and a lot of the time they're topless. And I'm like, in 1860, was that okay? Like, religiously, was that all right? Even in his Lord's Prayer book, there is a lot of nudity in there, and God is actually represented as a woman in quite a few of his pictographs, which I thought was quite fascinating considering he was Catholic. Catholics don't think God's a woman. So I don't know. I think in some ways that's pretty interesting. I also think that a lot of his commercial art, though it is agreeable and charming, is still really high level. Like, he's taking all of these skills and he's like putting it into these beautiful designs and decorations and pictographs and things. And like, it's just, I don't know, to me, it's almost the definition of art snobbery. Like, oh, this stuff is high end and then this stuff is not, even though it's still art, it's still beautiful, it's still enjoyed, it still makes people feel things and think things and whatever. He still has symbolism all over his decoratives and his other artwork. It's like they're still communicating things, there's still messages. I mean, even in his cigarette ad, like, you know, it is advertising. Advertising always has hidden messages. Like, look at this beautiful woman. You want to be this beautiful woman? You want to smoke like her? You've got to buy these cigarettes. You know, they have those fine art qualities to them, but they don't get the same credit. Because either way, you know, whether it be fine art or it be advertising, they're both about manipulation of your audience, expressing something. Well, actually, maybe that's the difference between what somebody might consider fine art and what somebody might consider advertising, is that advertising manipulates and fine art expresses. But either way, I do think that they're both beautiful. If you did enjoy hearing more about Alphonse and you would like to hear more about the other artists that I create on the monthly, let me know, because I may make this like a series of its own where I kind of explain why I made the changes that I did. If not, and you think that they're better off just as shorts, you know, let me know that too. So I know either way. I mean, that's the whole point of the short series anyway, was to just find art, to practice art, but also to expand my artistic knowledge. Anyway, I hope I see you all next week. We will be working on some Wreck This book, so that's exciting. But until then, bye!